Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked the medical supplies in his kit one more time. The alarm bells had been ringing for 20 minutes now, and everyone on the ship was running around getting ready for what might be their first contact with a new alien species. He was nervous but excited at the same time. Captain Lisa Kane called all the boarding team members to the main deck. Jake grabbed his medical bag and ran down the hallway to meet the others. When he got there, he saw Elena Blackwood already waiting, with her science equipment. Elena was different from other humans on the ship because she had elf blood in her family line. This made her better at understanding living things and feeling what others felt. "Listen up, everyone," Captain Kane said in her strong voice. "We got a distress signal from an unknown ship about 2 hours ago. The ship is badly damaged, and we think there might be survivors inside. Jake, you will handle any medical problems. Elena, you will study whatever we find. I want everyone to be careful because we do not know what we are dealing with." Dr. Amy Foster joined them carrying her advanced medical scanner. She looked worried because the readings from the alien ship were unlike anything they had seen before. The energy patterns were completely different from human technology, and she could not figure out what kind of beings might be inside. They put on their spacesuits and got into the small transport ship that would take them to the alien vessel. As they got closer, Jake could see that the ship was beautiful, but also very strange. It looked like it was made from some kind of crystal material that was glowing with a soft blue light. Parts of the ship were cracked, and the light was flickering like a candle that was about to go out. Elena felt something wrong as soon as they got close to the alien ship. Her elf senses were telling her that there was great pain and sadness inside. She could feel that someone was dying and there was not much time left. She told the others what she was feeling, and everyone moved faster. They connected their ship to the alien vessel and carefully opened the airlock. The inside of the ship was even more beautiful than the outside. Everything was made from the same crystal material, and there were patterns of light moving through the walls like veins carrying blood through a body. But many of the lights were dim or completely dark. They found the aliens in what looked like a medical room. There were 4 beings that looked almost human, but their skin was like living crystal. They were tall and graceful with long hair that seemed to be made of thin crystal fibers. 3 of them were standing around a bed where the 4th one was lying very still. The one on the bed was clearly dying. Her crystal skin was turning gray and cracks were spreading across her face and arms. The light that should have been glowing inside her was almost gone. The other 3 aliens looked at the humans with hope in their eyes that looked like precious gems. One of the standing aliens tried to speak, but the words were in a language none of the humans understood. Elena stepped forward and put her hand on her chest, then pointed to the dying alien. She was trying to show that they wanted to help. The alien understood and began speaking faster while pointing at different parts of his companion. Dr. Foster pulled out her medical scanner and tried to examine the dying alien. The readings made no sense because the alien's body was so different from humans. Instead of blood, she had some kind of liquid crystal flowing through her body. Instead of bones, she had a framework of harder crystal. Her heart was like a glowing gem that was slowly losing its light. Elena walked closer to the bed and felt a strange sensation. Her elf heritage was telling her something important about the dying alien. She could sense that this being was not just any alien, but someone very important. The way the others treated her and the beautiful clothing she wore suggested she might be royalty. Jake also felt something strange when he got near the alien princess. It was like a vibration in his blood that he had never felt before. Elena noticed this and grabbed his arm. She told him that there was some kind of connection between him and the dying alien that she could not explain. Dr. Foster tried everything she could think of, but nothing worked. The alien's condition was getting worse every minute. The 3 other aliens were clearly getting desperate, and one of them fell to his knees as if he was begging the humans to save their companion. Elena closed her eyes and used her elf abilities to try to understand what was wrong. She could feel that the alien's body was breaking down from the inside. It was like her crystal structure was dissolving and nothing could stop it. But when Jake moved closer, she felt the vibration get stronger. "Jake," Elena said quietly, "I think your blood might be able to help her. I do not know why, but I can feel that there is something in your blood that her body needs. It is dangerous, and we do not know what might happen, but I think it is her." "Only chance." Dr. Foster looked shocked. Giving human blood to an alien could kill both of them. But as they watched the alien princess getting weaker, they realized they had to try something. Jake looked at the dying princess and made his decision. He would risk everything to save her life, even though he did not know her name or where she came from. The other aliens seemed to understand what the humans were planning. They brought out their own medical equipment, which looked like it was made from living crystal. Jake rolled up his sleeve and prepared to give his blood to save an alien princess. He had no idea that this simple act of kindness would change his life forever. The alien medical equipment was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. The needles were made from some kind of living crystal that seemed to move on its own. When the alien doctor inserted it into Jake's arm, he felt a strange tingling sensation that spread through his whole body. His blood flowed through tubes that glowed with soft light as it moved toward the dying princess. Elena watched carefully as Jake's red blood mixed with the princess's crystal fluid inside the medical device. The mixture created beautiful swirling patterns of red and blue that looked like a sunset reflected in water. She could feel through her elf senses that something amazing was happening, but she did not understand what it meant. Dr. Foster monitored Jake's vital signs while the transfusion continued. His heart rate was higher than normal and his body temperature was rising slightly, but he seemed stable. The alien princess, on the other hand, was showing immediate changes. The gray color was leaving her skin and being replaced by a soft glow. The cracks on her face were slowly healing themselves. Jake felt dizzy as more of his blood flowed into the princess's body. But at the same time, he was experiencing something incredible. He could feel her pain as if it was his own, and somehow, he knew that she was getting better. It was like they were connected by an invisible thread that let them share their feelings. After 30 minutes, the alien doctor stopped the transfusion. The princess's skin was now glowing with bright patterns of light that moved across her body like waves on water. Her breathing was deep and steady, and the light in her crystal heart was burning bright again. She was alive and healthy, but something unexpected had happened during the process. Elena gasped as she realized what she was seeing. Jake's blood had not just saved the princess's life. It had somehow merged with her crystal structure and changed both of them. Jake's skin had a faint glow under it that pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. The princess's crystal patterns now included streaks of red that looked exactly like human blood vessels. The princess opened her eyes for the first time since they had found her. Her eyes were like diamonds that contained swirling galaxies of light. She looked directly at Jake and spoke in a voice that sounded like music played on crystal bells. None of the humans understood her words, but they all felt the emotion behind them. She was grateful and amazed, and something more that Elena recognized as the beginning of love. Dr. Foster ran new scans on both Jake and the princess. The results were impossible to believe. Jake's cellular structure had been altered at the genetic level. His blood now contained elements that should not exist in human biology. The princess showed similar changes with human genetic markers appearing throughout her crystal matrix. One of the alien companions who had been silent until now suddenly spoke in broken English. His name was Kale, and he had learned some human languages from intercepted transmissions. He explained that the princess was called Lyralai, and she was the daughter of the most powerful emperor in their part of the galaxy. What Jake had done was not just save her life, but create something that had never happened before in their history. Kyle told them that in their culture, blood was sacred because it carried the life force that powered their crystal bodies. By sharing his blood with Lyrelay Jake had created a bond that their people called the Soul Bridge. It meant they were connected for life and could feel each other's emotions and physical state, no matter how far apart they were. Elena was fascinated by this information. She asked Kale to explain more about the bond while Dr. Foster continued running tests. Kyle said that among his people, the Soul Bridge was considered the highest form of connection possible. It was usually only formed between mates who chose to spend their entire lives together. The fact that it had happened between different species was unheard of. Jake was having trouble processing everything that was happening to him. He could feel Lyrelay's presence in his mind like a warm light that made him feel peaceful and happy. When she moved her hand, he somehow knew she was going to do it before she did. When she felt curious about something, he felt curious too. It was wonderful and terrifying at the same time. Lyrelay sat up on the medical bed and looked around at all the humans who had saved her life. She spoke in her musical language and Kale translated her words. She wanted to thank them for their kindness, and she wanted to understand more about Jake and why his blood had been able to save her when her own people's medicine had failed. Dr. Foster shared her scan results with Elena, and they discovered something remarkable. Jake was not just feeling Lyrelay's emotions. His body was actually becoming stronger and more resilient. His muscle density had increased, and his reflexes were faster than before. It was as if the alien princess's crystal biology was enhancing his human abilities. The most surprising discovery came when Jake touched one of the alien medical devices. Instead of being confused by the crystal technology, he somehow understood how to use it. The device responded to his touch as if he was one of Lyrelay's people. Elena realized that the blood bond had given Jake the ability to interface with their technology. Captain Kane called from the main ship to check on the boarding team's progress. When Dr. Foster explained what had happened, there was a long silence on the communication channel. Finally, the captain asked if Jake and the alien princess were stable and safe. When she was told yes, she ordered the team to bring their new friends back to the main ship for better medical care and more detailed study. As they prepared to transport Lyrelay and her companions to the human ship, Jake felt a moment of worry. He wondered what would happen when they tried to separate him from the princess. Elena noticed his concern and asked Kale about it. Kale's expression became very serious as he explained that people who shared the Soul Bridge could not be apart for very long without becoming sick and weak. Jake looked at Lyrelay, and she looked back at him. Neither of them fully understood what had happened between them, but they both knew their lives had changed forever. The simple act of giving blood to save a stranger had created a connection that would bind them together across the stars. As they prepared to leave the alien ship, Jake wondered what other surprises this new bond would bring. 3 days had passed since Jake and Princess Lyrelay formed their mysterious bond. Elena had been working day and night in the ship's laboratory trying to understand what had happened to them. Her elf heritage gave her insights that the other scientists missed, but even she was amazed by what she was discovering. Jake's DNA had changed in ways that should have been impossible. The genetic code that made him human was still there, but now it included sequences that matched no known Earth biology. These new genetic patterns seemed to be designed to connect with other species. It was as if humans had hidden programming in their genes that only activated when they met the right alien partner. Elena brought her findings to Dr. Foster and Captain Kane during their daily briefing. She explained that humans might not be the simple Earth species they always thought they were. The genetic changes in Jake suggested that humans were meant to bond with other intelligent species across the galaxy. It was a theory that challenged everything they knew about human evolution. Princess Lyrelay had been learning English very quickly thanks to her bond with Jake. She could feel his understanding of the language and somehow absorb his knowledge through their connection. When she heard Elena's theory, she became very excited and asked to speak with them about something important. Lyrelay told them about ancient stories her people had preserved for thousands of years. The stories spoke of a time when an elder race, called the progenitors, had traveled the galaxy planting seeds of life on different worlds. These beings had created species that could eventually work together to build a peaceful galactic civilization. Humans might be one of these specially designed species. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she listened to Lyraleigh's words. Her elf ancestors had similar legends about ancient beings who had shaped the development of life throughout the universe. If these stories were true, then Jake's ability to bond with Lyraleigh was not an accident, but part of a plan that had been set in motion millions of years ago. Captain Kane was skeptical about ancient alien theories, but she could not argue with the evidence. Jake's transformation was real, and the bond between him and Lyraleigh was growing stronger every day. They could now communicate without speaking by sharing thoughts and emotions directly. Jake had also developed the ability to understand and use Zephyrian technology as if he had been born to it. The peaceful moment of discovery was interrupted when the ship's sensors detected a massive fleet approaching their position. Lyraleigh's face went pale when she saw the readings. She recognized the energy signatures and told them that her father, Emperor Valdris, was coming with the Imperial Navy. He would be angry and suspicious about what had happened to his daughter. Kale explained that the Emperor was a proud and protective ruler who would assume the humans had somehow captured or enslaved his daughter. The fact that she was bonded to an alien would be seen as either an attack on their empire or a sign that she had been corrupted by enemy magic. Either way, it would mean trouble for everyone on the human ship. Jake felt Lyraleigh's fear through their bond and tried to comfort her by sending feelings of safety and protection. But he was also worried about what would happen when they faced her father. The Emperor commanded one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, and he probably had weapons that could destroy their ship with a single shot. As the alien fleet got closer, Elena made a startling discovery in her research. She had been studying the genetic sequences that appeared in Jake's DNA and found references to them in the ship's database of ancient artifacts. There were mentions of similar patterns in ruins found on dead worlds throughout human space. This suggested that the progenitors had left clues about their work for future generations to find. Elena realized that they needed to find one of these ancient sites to learn more about the human-alien bonding process. If they could prove that humans were meant to work with other species, it might convince Emperor Valdris that his daughter's bond with Jake was not an attack, but a fulfillment of ancient destiny. Lyraleigh knew of a progenitor archive site in a nearby star system. Her people had found it years ago, but had never been able to access the information inside because the technology only responded to specific genetic patterns. If Jake's new hybrid genetics could unlock the archive, it would provide the proof they needed. Captain Kane made the difficult decision to divert their course toward the archive site. It was risky because the Emperor's fleet would follow them, and they would be trapped if the archive did not contain the answers they hoped to find. But it was their best chance to avoid a war between humans and Zephyrians. During the journey to the archive, Jake began experiencing new abilities that amazed everyone, including himself. He could sense the emotional states of people around him, even if they were not bonded to him. His physical strength had increased dramatically, and his reflexes were fast enough to catch objects that others could barely see moving. Most remarkably, he seemed to be developing a form of enhanced intuition that let him predict what would happen in dangerous situations. Elena studied these changes carefully and realized that Jake was becoming something new. He was no longer fully human, but he was not becoming Zephyrian either. Instead, he was evolving into a bridge species that combined the best qualities of both races. His human creativity and adaptability were being enhanced by Zephyrian energy manipulation and crystal-based processing power. Lyraleigh was experiencing similar changes in reverse. Her rigid crystal structure was becoming more flexible and adaptive like human biology. She could now experience emotions in ways that her people normally could not, and her thinking had become more creative and unpredictable. The bond was transforming, both of them into something unprecedented. When they reached the progenitor archive site, they found a massive structure built into an asteroid. The archive looked like a crystal cathedral that had been grown rather than constructed. Ancient symbols covered its surface, and energy patterns flowed through its walls like frozen lightning. As soon as Jake got close to it, the symbols began to glow and respond to his presence. Elena felt a surge of excitement as she realized they had found exactly what they were looking for. The archive was responding to Jake's hybrid genetics, which proved that humans really were designed to bond with other species. Inside this ancient structure, they would find the answers that could save both their races and perhaps change the future of the entire galaxy. But as they prepared to enter the archive, the Emperor's fleet arrived and began surrounding their position. They were running out of time to find the truth before Lyrelai's father decided that the humans were enemies who needed to be destroyed. The Emperor's flagship was 3 times larger than any human vessel and bristled with weapons that glowed like captured stars. Emperor Valdris himself appeared on the communication screen, and his anger was visible even across the vast differences between their species. His crystal skin was dark with rage, and his voice cracked like breaking glass when he spoke. Lyrelai tried to explain to her father what had happened, but he would not listen to her words. He believed the humans had used some kind of mind control to make his daughter think she wanted to be bonded to an alien. In Zephyrian culture, family honor was more important than individual choice, and he saw her bond with Jake as a terrible shame that had to be corrected. Captain Kane attempted to negotiate, but the Emperor gave them 1 hour to surrender his daughter and submit to arrest for the crime of corrupting royal blood. If they refused, he would destroy their ship and everyone on it. The only hope they had was to get inside the progenitor archive and find proof that the bond was natural and beneficial rather than an attack. Jake and Elena entered the ancient structure while Dr. Foster and the rest of the crew prepared for a possible battle. Lyrelai wanted to come with them, but her presence might trigger her father to attack immediately. She stayed on the ship and used her bond with Jake to guide him through the archive's complex passages. Inside the archive, the walls were covered with moving images that told the story of the progenitors and their great work. Elena's elf heritage helped her understand some of the symbols, while Jake's hybrid genetics allowed him to access the archive's information systems directly. Together, they began to uncover the truth about humanity's hidden purpose. The progenitors had indeed created humans as a bridge species designed to prevent the galaxy from fragmenting into isolated civilizations. They had planted humans on Earth and given them genetic patterns that would activate when they encountered other intelligent species. The goal was to create bonds that would unite different races and prevent the wars that had destroyed previous galactic civilizations. But the archive also revealed a darker truth. There was an enemy force called the Void Seekers that fed on genetic diversity and sought to prevent species from working together. These beings came from outside the galaxy and consumed the life essence of entire civilizations. The progenitors had disappeared while fighting this enemy, and their bridge species were the galaxy's last hope for survival. Elena felt a chill as she read about the Void Seekers and their methods. They would infiltrate civilizations and turn different species against each other through fear and prejudice. Once a galaxy was divided and weakened, they would sweep in and drain all life from every world. The process was already beginning in their part of space. Jake discovered that his bond with Lyrelai was just the first step in a larger process. As more humans formed bonds with other species, they would create a network of connected minds that could resist the Void Seekers' influence. But the process required genetic stabilization that could only come from contact with other progenitor-designed species. The archive identified Elena as one of these species. Her elf heritage was not from Earth evolution, but from another progenitor experiment designed to complement humanity's bridging abilities. If she joined the bond between Jake and Lyreley, it would create a stable foundation that could spread to others and eventually protect the entire galaxy. Elena realized what this meant for her personally. Joining the bond would permanently alter her genetics and might cost her the immortal lifespan that came with her elf blood. She would become something new and unknown with no guarantee that she would survive the transformation. But without her sacrifice, Jake's hybrid state would eventually kill him, and the bond with Lyreley would be lost. Outside the archive, the Emperor's patience was running out. His fleet had taken attack positions, and their weapons were charging for the first strike. Lyreley begged her father to wait, but he refused to listen to what he saw as alien corruption speaking through his daughter's voice. He gave the order to prepare for battle. At that moment, a new threat appeared on the sensors. Ships unlike anything, either humans or Zephyrians had seen before, were approaching from deep space. These vessels were black as empty space and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Elena recognized them from the archive records as Void Seeker scout ships sent to investigate the unusual genetic activity in this system. The appearance of this common enemy forced Emperor Valdris to reconsider his position. His ships turned, their weapons toward the Void Seeker vessels while maintaining their threat against the human ship. He demanded to know what these new enemies were and why they had come to his daughter's location. Elena made her decision quickly. She placed her hands on the archive's central crystal and allowed her elf genetics to merge with the information systems. The transformation was painful, as her cellular structure began changing to accommodate both human and Zephyrian genetic patterns. She felt her elven immortality shifting into something different, but not disappearing entirely. Jake felt Elena joining the bond and gasped as new abilities flooded through his consciousness. With 3 different genetic templates working, together he could now access powers that none of the individual species possessed alone. His strength increased beyond anything he had thought possible, and his mind could process information at incredible speeds. Lyreley experienced the same enhancement as the 3-way bond completed itself. Her crystal matrix became more complex and adaptive while retaining its energy manipulation abilities. She could now feel not just Jake's emotions, but Elena's as well, and through them, she gained new insights into strategy and combat that her people had never developed. The Void. Seeker ships opened fire on both the human and Zephyrian vessels with weapons that seemed to tear holes in space itself. Their goal was clearly to destroy all life in the system before the bonding process could spread to others. Emperor Valdris found himself fighting alongside the beings he had planned to arrest just minutes before. Elena emerged from the archive transformation changed, but alive. Her appearance now combined human features with elf grace and Zephyrian crystalline patterns under her skin. She radiated a power that made everyone around her feel stronger and more confident. The 3-way bond had created something unprecedented that could stand against the Void Seekers. Jake felt the bond stabilize and knew that Elena had saved not just his life but the future of multiple species. Together, the 3 of them represented a new form of existence that could spread throughout the galaxy and unite all intelligent life against the threat from beyond the stars. The Emperor would have to accept this reality or watch his empire fall to an enemy that fed on division and hatred. The battle for the future of the galaxy was about to begin, and 3 unlikely heroes held the key to victory in their genetically intertwined hands. The combined power of Jake, Elena, and Lyreley's 3-way bond proved devastating against the Void Seeker attack ships. Working together, they could predict the enemy's movements and coordinate the human and Zephyrian fleets with perfect timing. Their shared consciousness allowed them to process battle information faster than any computer and make strategic decisions in seconds rather than minutes. Emperor Valdris watched in amazement as his daughter and her human companions turned the tide of battle against an enemy he had never seen before. The Void Seeker's weapons that had been tearing through his ship's defenses suddenly became ineffective as the bonded trio guided defensive maneuvers with supernatural precision. For the first time in the battle, he began to understand that his daughter had not been corrupted but enhanced. Elena's transformation had stabilized Jake's hybrid genetics and given all three of them access to abilities that surpassed what any single species could achieve. Jake could now manipulate energy like a Zephyrian while retaining human creativity and adaptability. Lyrelai gained human emotional depth and strategic thinking while keeping her crystal-based power systems. Elena became a living bridge that amplified and coordinated their combined abilities. The Void Seeker ships began retreating when they realized their surprise attack had failed. But before they disappeared into deep space, their commander sent a message that chilled everyone who heard it. More ships were coming, and this was only the beginning of a war that would consume every living world in the galaxy. The enemy had been watching and waiting for exactly this kind of genetic bonding to appear because it represented the greatest threat to their plans. After the battle, Emperor Valdris came aboard the human ship to meet his daughter's bonded companions, Face 2. Face. When he saw how the three of them moved and acted in perfect harmony, he finally understood that this was not some alien magic, but a natural evolution that had been planned since ancient times. The archive records Elena shared with him confirmed that his daughter was part of something greater than any single empire or species. Captain Kane found herself dealing with diplomatic complexities she had never imagined when she started this mission. The Emperor declared Jake an honorary prince of the Zephyrian Empire and granted Elena the title of Guardian of Ancient Wisdom. But more importantly, he agreed to join forces with humanity to prepare for the coming war against the Void Seekers. 6 months later, the galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The story of the human who saved an alien princess with his blood had spread to dozens of worlds and inspired other species to overcome their fears and prejudices. The Galactic Bridge Initiative that Jake, Elena, and Lyrelai founded became a growing network of bonded individuals who could resist the Void Seekers' attempts to turn species against each other. Jake's transformation was now complete, and he had become something truly beyond explanation. His blood contained elements from multiple species and had healing properties that worked on beings he had never met before. When other humans formed bonds with different aliens, they came to him for guidance and stabilization. He had become a living symbol of unity and diversity. Elena had not lost her elven immortality, but had transformed it into something that could be shared across the bond. All three of them were now effectively ageless, and their enhanced abilities continued to grow stronger over time. She had become the keeper of ancient knowledge and helped other species understand their own connections to the progenitor legacy. Princess. Lyrelai had given up her claim to the Zephyrian throne to work full-time with the Bridge Initiative. Her father respected her choice and appointed her as the Empire's ambassador to all other species. She used her royal status to negotiate alliances that would have been impossible without the trust created by her bond with humans. The three companions traveled the galaxy in a new ship that responded to their combined consciousness. The vessel was built using hybrid technology that combined the best features of human engineering, Zephyrian crystal systems, and ancient progenitor designs recovered from archives throughout known space. It could travel faster than any conventional ship, and its weapons could defend against Void Seeker attacks. Their mission was to find isolated species and offer them the choice to join the growing alliance against the common threat. Some rejected their offer out of fear or pride, but many others welcomed the chance to be part of something larger than their individual civilizations. Each new species that joined the network made all the others stronger and more resistant to enemy influence. The most remarkable discovery came when they realized that their bond had begun to resonate across space and time itself. Ancient progenitor. Monitoring stations that had been dormant for millions of years started activating in response to their presence. These devices sent signals to other parts of the galaxy, where similar bonding experiments had been attempted in the distant past. Jake often thought about how a simple decision to help a dying stranger had led to consequences beyond anything he could have imagined. What had started as an act of medical necessity had become the foundation for a new form of existence that transcended the limitations of individual species. He was no longer just human, but he had not stopped being human either. One day, they received a distress signal from a star system they had never visited before. The message described attacks by unknown ships that matched the Void Seeker profile. Without hesitation, they changed course to offer assistance, even though they knew it might be a trap designed to capture or study them. As they prepared to face another crisis, Elena reflected on how much their lives had changed since that first meeting on the alien medical ship. They had become something that the progenitors had hoped for but never lived to see. The bond between them was not just personal, but cosmic in its implications for the future of all intelligent life. Jake felt the familiar sensation of Lyra Lay's presence in his mind as they approached the endangered system. Her consciousness was intertwined with his so completely that he sometimes forgot where his thoughts ended and hers began. Elena's wisdom and strategic thinking flowed through both of them like a river of shared knowledge and experience. The ship's sensors detected massive destruction on the planets below and Void Seeker vessels in orbit around the system's main star. This was clearly a major invasion force rather than a simple scouting mission. The enemy was escalating their attacks and testing the response capabilities of the Bridge Initiative. As they moved into combat position, Jake realized that their story was far from over. They had become the first of a new kind of being that could unite the galaxy against an ancient threat, but the real work was just beginning. Somewhere in the deep void, ancient progenitor systems were awakening, and humanity's true purpose was finally starting to unfold across the stars.